You can view into it later on tomorrow when we post it to our school website. Additionally, we will be posting this presentation as well to our school website tomorrow. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So here's some of the expectations around learning that we have going into in-person, commonly referred to as hybrid learning, which will also incorporate distance learning for our families who choose to do so. So teaching the classroom where students must remain socially distanced significantly limits what is possible in the classroom. Teachers will continue to utilize the various formats that we have incorporated this school year, Google Classroom being the main one, and then depending on the teacher, the use of Pear Deck, Edpuzzle, Google Meets, of course, and as we're using this evening, Zoom. You know, the backbone of our instruction is this hybrid model, and continuation of this is what has worked during distance learning. And so we don't want to cause major disruptions to the teaching and learning process that we have been involved in going all the way back to August. Something that is not going to happen at the high school is that we will not be re-rostering students who choose distance learning, and classes will remain intact. You know, during in-person hybrid learning, students who choose distance learning will not really see any significant changes to their instructional program. And all students are going to have access to their teachers and their courses. All students, regardless of whether they choose in person or continue with distance learning, will continue to have one or more of their classes online Tuesday through Friday, depending on their schedule. So let me repeat that part again, Tuesday through Friday. So as it stands right now, and as we have had from the beginning, Mondays are asynchronous. We have a homeroom time for our students that will continue. So Mondays, all students will be asynchronous with that half-hour homeroom check-in, and then they will have their classes Tuesday through Friday. You know, for students who choose to stay with distance learning, really the only thing that they're going to see as far as a change is they're not going to have, you know, 30 little boxes in front of them on their computer containing every student that they have been seeing virtually or through the computer during distance learning. Because we will have a group of students who will be present with their teacher in the classroom, and those students won't need to be on Zoom or on Google Meets as we are this evening. You know, each teacher is going to continue to provide the instruction to all their students, whether they're in front of them in that classroom or continuing online. By structuring this in-person hybrid schedule in this manner, we have really sought to create as much continuity as possible. Our students, our staff have been through a lot, and as much consistency as we can create is going to be beneficial for everybody. And by doing it this way, we eliminate or reduce, if you will, the need to incorporate new pedagogical practices, new technology, and we don't have to restructure our curriculum to fit into a new box. We already have that box established. And our educators are committed to minimizing educational disruption at this time. That is very important. We want to have as smooth a transition as possible. And by doing it this way, we believe we can achieve that. So you have had the opportunity to indicate to us what format you want for your student. whether it's in person or distance learning. We have extended that survey, excuse me. It will close on March 18th at 5 p.m. If you have already submitted your preference and wish to change it prior to March 18th, we ask that you email Mr. Steinbach and he will change your preference. One thing to keep in mind, folks, it is important and it's expected that you continue with your choice through the end of the school year. Now, let's put a little asterisk at the end of that sentence. If you need to change, and I'll use this as the example, you have chosen in person and something has changed in your family and you need to switch to distance learning as the sole means of your student getting their education, you can reach out to us and we will help navigate you through that process. If it's reverse, you chose distance learning and at the end of April, again, circumstances have changed in your household and you would like your student to be on campus, reach out to us and we will make the adjustments. So again, we do ask that you stay with that, but we understand things happen and changes do need to occur. Just give us a little time. I would, ask maybe for, like a 3-day notice if you want your student to come back on campus with us, just so we can ensure that everything is set up properly and we don't have any imbalances within our classrooms. Okay. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steinbach, and he's going to take us through our mitigation and safety protocols that we have brought in to ensure and to ensure that we are being safe, not only for our students, but for our staff as well. So Mr. Steinbach, go right ahead and I'll take over admitting people.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. My email, everyone, will be on the very last slide here. I've gotten a handful of families that have reached out, and that is totally fine as far as switching your DL versus hybrid choices. And maybe after tonight, we'll get a few more, and that's totally fine. So yeah, we're all obviously in this together, working in one goal to keep everyone safe and continue the learning objectives that we set out from the beginning of the year. However, there are some things we have to take into account before, we send our student off to school. Parents and guardians must not send sick students to school. These are some of the symptoms for COVID-19. I'm sure many of us are already familiar with, but fever and chills, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle or body ache, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, and diarrhea. We do have a lot of signage that is going up around our campus, this being one of them, just to kind of remind our students of the primary symptoms of COVID. Have a ton of one-way signs, and I'll get to that eventually, and kind of the procedures that we've laid out in place once our students are back on campus, such as one-way halls. And our 2 main halls are the only areas where students will be cross-trafficked. However, there will be basically barricades in between these main halls, so students aren't kind of going back and forth, and keep maintaining their 6-foot distancing as well. Other mitigation efforts, parents and guardians should not send their students to in-person learning if they have a COVID positive household member. Continue to report absences by calling the school. In the event of a positive COVID-19 case, students and or staff will work with the Monterey County Health Department, notifying families of any student or staff who has come in contact or test positives for COVID-19, and failure to comply with safety procedures will result in a student having to return to distance learning only. Next slide. Inside the classroom occupancy based on the square footage of the classroom. Matt Kelly and his team did a fantastic job over the summer, basically identifying the square foot of all of our classrooms and keeping into account, teachers' areas and that type of thing, and taking that out of the equation. For the most part, 12 students per classroom is around the average. The last time I looked at the choices that families were choosing between hybrid and distance learning, we were around 63% choosing hybrid and roughly 37% choosing distance learning. And if that susses out that way, at any given time or any given day, there would be roughly about 180 students on campus at any given time. And that 12 student per class could decrease to somewhere around 6 to 8 students per class on average, but we'll see how that turns out. Students will be seated 6 feet apart. HVAC systems have been inspected and will allow for proper circulation of airflow. Disinfecting all classrooms and other frequently touched areas will also be adhered to. Physical distancing, pathways, staff will supervise hallways at all passing periods to remind students to maintain 6 feet of physical distancing. Outside activities during PE and anytime they line up outside, students will maintain their 6 feet of social distancing. Next slide. The HVAC systems will continuously be running throughout the day while students and staff are occupying the room. The unit will either be in heating or in fan mode. Both methods allow air to continuously circulate. Also, we will create cross ventilations with at least 2 windows being open as well as the door. Next slide. Masks. Students must wear mask coverings at all appropriate times, arriving in the classroom, using the restroom, and leaving. Students who do not have a mask will be provided one by the school. All staff will wear mask coverings at all times. Face shields are not suitable for face coverings. Health screening. Students and staff will be screened prior to class, consistent with CDPH guidelines, wellness, and temperature checks. Student temperatures will be taken but are not recorded. Parent guardians will be contacted for students with a fever of greater than 100.4 degrees. Failure to pass the health screening, the students will be sent home immediately with a parent guardian. Next slide. Arrival. Everyone is required to maintain physical distancing before, during, and after class. Each student must arrive at the designated time, and please be on time, as our teachers are required to use their non-touch thermometers to get every student in class. So we're asking students to be there at least a minute or 2 before class so that instruction can begin on time. Parents and guardians will remain in the vehicle while dropping off and picking up students. Hallways and entry exits will be labeled to help maintain physical distancing. Departure. Students must leave immediately after class. No hanging out on campus. Disinfecting will be happening during this time, and that's certainly one of the reasons why. On campus, students will be monitored as they move into and out of buildings in order to ensure that safety protocols are adhered to, social distancing, mask wearing, and the like. Visitors will not be allowed. Campus will be closed. If a parent guardian must come on campus, please report to the main office in A Wing first. Our campus navigation, I know this is a small map, is as follows, and we ordered 125 one-way stickers that are on the ground to help students out with navigating the campus. School lunches will be provided to all students at no cost. Lunch and breakfast will continue to follow the current model, starting at 11:30 and ending at 12:30. Restroom occupancy will be limited based on the number of sinks per restroom. Students may access restrooms during class periods. Outdoor hand washing stations will be set up as needed. And Mr. Garcia,
All right.
back to you.
So what is in-person instructional model going to look like for our students at PG High and community high school? Again, we are working to create as much continuity as possible for all of our students. The in-person model, hybrid model, will essentially be a continuation of distance learning, but the majority of the students in the classroom with the teacher delivering the lesson. Again, this model will reduce the need to incorporate new teaching practices, technology, keep us from re-rostering, having to restructure the curriculum. Something to understand is that we cannot replicate the in-person learning experience we are accustomed to. So prior to March 13, 2020, that instructional model, we can't recreate that right now. We're not in a position to do so. As Mr. Steinbeck took us through all of the safety precautions, the limiting the number of students within the classroom, the need to support students whose families choose distance learning, and the very nature of our program having essentially half of the students at home, half in the classroom. So the in-person is not going to be that typical classroom experience. We're just not there yet. And my hope and belief is that come the next school year, we will be much closer to returning to what we are accustomed to. Instruction and learning are going to be focused on and have been focused on the mastery of the curriculum while ensuring social emotional well-being of our students. Our goal is not to recreate the normal, as I've just stated, but to create a balanced learning experience that still challenges students, engages them, and works within the constraints that we have of hybrid and distance learning. Our teachers are going to continue to follow the California State Curricular Standards. They have adjusted and continue to adjust their curriculum to focus on the essential standards. Our focus is on mastery rather than preparation for exams. The educators at PGHS and CHS are continually developing, adjusting, and implementing instructional practices and experiences that meet the ever-challenging needs of our students. We know we're not out of the woods with the challenges that we face as a community, and our teachers are working very diligently to continue to provide the best education possible, again, considering the constraints that we have. So what is the actual bell schedule going to look like? The bell schedule itself is identical to what your students have been experiencing since the start of school. So there's nothing new there. We have a start of 9 o'clock for period 1 for those students who have a period 1 this quarter. Not every student does. And just a reminder, if you didn't know, we started the final quarter today. So students then go on to their period 3 class. There's the lunch break, period 5 and 7. So again, the bell schedule stays the same. On Monday, as we have been doing and will continue to do, period 3 is our homeroom time. So from 10:30 to 11 o'clock. Other than that half hour on Monday, students are working asynchronously with assignments, preparing for tests, exams, working on projects, whatever it is that their teacher has assigned to them. Now, here's where the difference comes in into as far as what it is going to look like physically for those students whose families choose in-person learning. On Tuesday, students who are designated to the A group and have a period 1 will come on campus and go to the classrooms of their teachers who they have for period 1. The rest of the students who are not a part of A group, who are part of the B group, will join the class via their computer on Zoom or Google Meets. Those families whose students have been designated for distance learning will do the same. At the end of first period, those students who are on campus will leave. They will go home, and all students will be in their period 3 class on that Tuesday through the computer. Lunch break. Then we will have a B group of students come on campus and meet with their teacher for 5th period. Those who are not part of B group, so A group, will be online for their 5th period class, as well as the students who have chosen distance learning. At the end of 5th period, those students who are on campus, the B group, will go home, and all students will be online period 7. Then Wednesday, we go through a similar process with a B group, period 1, then everybody online 3, A group, period 5 on Wednesday, and then period 7, everybody online. And we rotate through that. So students will have an opportunity, again, those who are choosing in person will have an opportunity to be on campus every single day. Just kind of let you take that in. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. Is my kid an A group or a B group? Well, we haven't finalized that yet. We are going to wait for the questionnaire to close this week. Then we have to go through the list and ensure that we have a balanced A group and B group as far as numbers. And once we have established that, we will push out information as to which group your student belongs to. For community high school, our schedule will have A groups and B groups. And of course, those students and families who choose distance learning will be incorporated into this. So again, for community high school, as has been the case since the start, Monday is a synchronous, and students meet for a limited amount of time. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, these will be opportunities for our students at community high school to be on campus. In the morning for A group, in the afternoon for B group. Again, this will happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Wednesdays and Fridays, all students together asynchronously. And as needed, we will bring students on campus to provide additional support on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I'll give you a minute to look into this particular schedule. And as I stated earlier, we will be determining who is part of Group A and who is part of Group B once we have closed the questionnaire at the end of the week. Okay. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, and we're actually almost there. Just a couple more slides. All right. So why is the PGHS schedule designed with students transitioning from school and home throughout a given day? So Every aspect of our schedule follows current state and county guidelines regarding safety measures related to physical distancing and cleaning steps that we need to take place to keep staff and students safe. The plan is flexible enough that it will allow us to shift in and out of full distance learning if ordered to do so by the county. Of course, we all know that we are moving in the right direction, and my hope is that we continue to see those numbers fall, but we need to have a plan in place just in case that doesn't happen. The schedule and instructional model is designed to create as much continuity. You've heard me say that multiple times. Just trying to be sure that we all understand that. Okay. It also creates an equitable learning opportunity for students who choose in person or distance learning. It's designed to give as many students as possible the opportunity to be on campus while affording our staff the opportunity to clean between classes. So you have that A group coming in the morning on a Tuesday and the B group's coming in the afternoon. Well, we want time to be able to clean between those two groups. And so this schedule allows for us to do that. Not only the classrooms, but the restrooms, other areas that have high contact with students and staff on campus. And the schedule keeps our current distance learning bell schedule, which again is part of that continuity that we feel is extremely important. All right, Mr. Steinbeck.
Yeah, this Thursday, everyone, is a board meeting, and the expectation is that there will be potentially a decision made on potentially when we're going back to hybrid. One of the ideas that we would like to put forward is to bring our ninth graders, our freshmen in a week before this potential board approval. So for example, if the board were to pass us going back the week of April 5, we'd like to offer an opportunity for our freshman class to come on campus March 30th and 31st, which is a Tuesday and a Wednesday, to be separated out in roughly 4 or 5 different cohorts on campus. No more than 14 students in one cohort, and they would be with an instructional aide for the day on campus, logging into their classes via distance learning as they would at home. However, they'd be on campus. And then during a portion of the lunch hour on these dates, Dr. Hackquist has agreed to bring some of his leadership students on campus and give our freshmen basically a in-person orientation so that they'd feel a little bit more comfortable coming back to school. This is an example of the 2 cohorts that we would create for these 2 days, potentially A through L, first last name A through L cohort on March 30th, and the 31st last name M through Z cohort. We feel like this would really make an easier transition, particularly for this group of freshmen who most of which probably have not stepped foot on our campus. So again, more to come, but did want to inform you about this opportunity.
Again, just to emphasize, we are going to be making a recommendation of a start date for in-person learning on April 6th. And we have a board meeting this Thursday, and we hope to receive approval at that time. And this does take us to the end of our presentation this evening. We're going to open it up to questions in just a minute, but we want to emphasize again the questionnaire that you received through Illuminate, which is our student database system, it does close March 18th at 5 o'clock. And for those of you who have already submitted a response and wish to change your response, please email Mr. Steinbach, his email is right there, by March 18th, and he will adjust it accordingly. Okay. All right. So let's close the slide deck.
For those of you, I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia. For those of you who are new to this, if you look into, most of you will have in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom, it says participants, and you can raise your hand by clicking the little hand. I see that we already have a few up right now. And Mr. Garcia, if you're ready, then we can begin.
Yes.
Okay. And our first hand up is the Platt family, and I will ask to unmute.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
All right, Mr. Steinbach, I commend you. You did a great job coming up with a plan, given some very, very tight restrictions. I think some of them are a little overblown, but you're doing a good job at that. Grace just walked through and said, "Oh, I love Mr. Steinbach." So she's looking forward to being back, hopefully, and seeing you. My question is, if the majority of symptomatic COVID cases do not exhibit a fever, and that makes it an even like a really small percent of the total number of infections, what is the point of spending the time on the temperature checks if it's really not a good indicator of disease? There was a comment that this is going to be, we're shooting for a continuation of distance learning, not trying to get back to normal. I would just say that that's the issue, that's the problem for a lot of us parents. The opportunity to be able to start class early on March 30th and 31st, that's great. If any day early that my kids can get back, I want them back. Although I got to say, it's a really bad look that this only comes after the state dangles money in front of the district to have people back in class by April 1st. And then all of a sudden, now they're jumping on it, what we've been asking for the whole time. Thank you.
Okay. Next person, Mr. Steinbach.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Platt. And Ben E.
Hi, this is Robin Enix, Maximilian Podell's mom. Hi, thank you. I want to say thank you also for all of the time and efforts you guys have put into coming up with this plan. It all, I agree with a lot of what Mr. Platt said, but one of the big questions I have of listening to this is, why would you bring back the freshmen before you bring back the seniors? It makes sense to me, and maybe it's because I have a senior, but even if I didn't, that these kids haven't been on campus all year. They're done with PGHS. As many of you already know, a lot of them don't feel that the school's been doing much for them this year anyway. To bring them on campus and maybe let them have the seniors that want to be on campus have a week to themselves or a couple of days or something like that before everybody else comes in, just says a lot. And not doing something for the seniors who will never be at PGHS again also says a lot. The freshmen will be here for 3 more years. So that's all I have to say. I would really like some thought and consideration from you guys and maybe others to be put into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Okay,
and Jill? Jill, if you can hear me, for whatever reason, whatever device you are on does not allow for an audio. So it does not allow me to unmute you. Maybe we can try you back later. And Nandita?
Hey, thank you for taking my call. And I have a couple of quick questions. One is that, once we go back into this hybrid program and there are students and teachers on campus, are we going to have a system where you notify people if there has been a positive COVID case on campus? And my second question is that what are we doing about vaccinations? Like, are all the teachers vaccinated? And secondly, I know we are not there yet, but hopefully over the summer, we'll have enough vaccines available. And has there been any talk about actually getting some of the 16 plus kids vaccinated, organizing some sort of a clinic or something on campus to get the kids vaccinated too?
In regards to having a positive COVID case on campus, those who have been determined to have come in contact with that particular person, whether it's staff or students, will be notified, and we will work closely with County Public Health through that process. In regards to the staff and vaccinations, it is not a requirement that staff be vaccinated. Staff have been for the last week and a half. Those who wish to have been seeking opportunities to get vaccinated. I myself was vaccinated a week and a half ago, and will receive my second dose on April 1st. So a number of staff are taking advantage of it. But again, it is not a requirement that they do so. And then finally, in relationship to students, at this time, it is also not a requirement that students be vaccinated. And that's all I really know at this time related to high school age students. And I think we'll have to wait and see what happens over the summer and as we approach next school year. Also, I encourage all of you at some point to please read our district's COVID safety plan. It is on our website. Yes, it is a lengthy document. However, if you look at the table of contents, you'll be able to go to the things that you may have questions about or interest you the most. And then based on what you read from that point, we do ask, or we do offer to you, the ability to ask us questions if need be, based on what you read in that plan.
Thank you very much. And thank you for everything that you keep doing for our students. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next person, Mr. Steinbeck.
Sure. And Eric.
Hello, good evening. This is Eric. Thank you all for taking the opportunity to hold this tonight and present some options available for the students to get back in the classroom, which I think is fantastic. We're new to the town and new to the district. And so I'm just wondering if you could speak to transportation, any considerations for that, knowing that there's limited hours in the classroom and then they need to be back available at their computers to be in the synchronous sessions. Also, can you speak to how this ties in with extracurricular activities, if there are any sports or other that might be included in consideration? Thank you.
Mr. Steinbeck, do you mind addressing maybe the transportation piece, as I am too new to the community and not familiar with what Monterey Transit offers for our students?
Yeah, I can speak to what the school is how what we're handcuffed by and what we can't do, which is unfortunate. as far as using our school buses and the like. Unfortunately, certainly the last time I heard is that we cannot provide that as a school. I do understand that obviously biking from place to place, depending on where you are located in town, is quite safe. Our SRO Officer Hanks, we're hoping to have back, who monitors off of Sunset and 19th Street, which many of you guys know is can get rough over there with the glare in the morning. And so we do have a great police presence there, certainly in the morning. However, to the public transit in Pacific Grove, to be honest with you, I'm unaware of much of that. So I can't answer that directly.
I would encourage you to look at the public transportation schedule and see if there's some opportunities there to support your student. In regards to extracurriculars, so sports, practices, conditioning is up and running. And if your student is still interested in participating in sports, I encourage you to reach out to our athletic director, Laura Lee Gayona, and her contact information is on our website. But that is up and running. And in fact, we had our first competition just last week with our cross country team. So very, very exciting, taking that one more step into normalcy through athletics. All right, next question, please.
I have to give a quick shout out to Donna Johnson and Todd Bowler, who did a tremendous amount of work getting that first contest up and running. It was we had like 40 parents there. It was really cool. And Amy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a teacher myself, so I'm aware of what you guys are all going through. Thanks for getting all this going. I have the same question as Eric for transportation. My daughter will have to walk to and from school, and my concern is, how is she going to get into her next class? So if she's there for that first period class, how can she get into her next class that starts within 10 to 15 minutes? We live over here on Lighthouse. The school is a 30-minute walk for her. There's no way I can be available. So is there a way that you guys can provide an area on campus for them to take their next class and then they can rush home at lunch? And then, like, if they're in the afternoon after lunch, then they can take that 5th period class and then stay on campus, either within the classroom they're receiving the instruction, or can they go to the library? But can there be a place provided, please? And can this be thought about, that they go somewhere so that they can get to class on time? Because my daughter's not going to make her next class. I mean, end of story. It's not going to happen. So if we can just try to find a way to resolve that to support them, that would be great.
All right.
Thank you.
Lito, I can try to take this and maybe you can fill in the blanks. One of the things that we see as a positive with our bell schedule is that in between, for example, 1st and 3rd period and 5th and 7th period, we do have a half hour between those class periods. And naturally in between 3rd and 5th period is our hour lunch for one. That could potentially still be an issue even with the half hour. I can tell you that the Mr. Morrison, our librarian, is working very hard to attempt to set up a situation where X amount of students can be in the library at any given time. So I would like to think that we could facilitate something like that, particularly for a student that is having issues over and over, getting home from in-person to getting back to their online class on time.
It is something we'll look into. Okay. All right, who's next?
And sorry, I'm having interface issues here. And Julie?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. It's really exciting to finally see a date of a potential going back to school. I really hope the board approves everything. I did have a question. I know this came up on the last board meeting and the date ended up getting pushed back to allow the teachers to prepare their classrooms. I wanted to know if the high school teachers have prepared their rooms to have the students back in class.
We are in that process of doing so. And so our goal will be to be ready. Again, pending board approval for April 6th, but that process has begun.
Okay, great. And then I have one more question, and it's a little stretch for this meeting, but it involves the senior graduation. And I wanted to see if the cases go down, if there's any chance that we can have the graduation at the stadium instead of at Laguna Seca.
Yeah. So we'll have to, it's a wait and see right now. It's a wait and see.
Is that any control for our district, or is it all state mandated?
It's going to be more so, well, state and county health guidelines.
Are there any other issues with the on-campus? Sorry to interrupt, but if there's anything else besides state and county regarding the graduation?
No, there's not.
Okay, thank you. Jill, I still
you.
see your hand up, but I still can't unmute you, unfortunately. And Margot?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Mr. Garcia, Mr. Steinbeck, and parents. Thank you. It's nice to see your faces. I'm afraid I'm not, I kind of have two questions. I really want to make sure I understand the schedule. For the high school, am I correct in that basically the students will go to campus for one period a day? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I want to be really honest with you. I have I suppose, a typically developing teenager who is skeptical about this and feels at this point that her time would be better served staying home. And I would really like her to go to campus. And I'm just curious, how would you persuade a student the benefits of this plan?
Well, I would have to say, whoops, a little feedback. I'm going to mute you, Margot. Yeah, I'm going to mute you, Margot. And if you have another question, please raise your hand again. We've designed this schedule to support both students whose families want their child on campus, and those families who feel it is of the best interest for their student to remain in distance learning. So it really has to be a family decision. I see the benefits of both, and ultimately it has to be a very personal decision that you make. And what I can offer is perhaps making an appointment with one of our school counselors, depending on the grade of your student, and just kind of talk about the classes, talk about the dynamics of interactions, and perhaps we can see what develops from those conversations. Whether it's the counselor, Mr. Steinbeck, myself, we're all open and willing to have a conversation with families and their students about that.
And I'll just share really quickly what I've witnessed from the students that have been on campus with our phase 1, 2, and 3 reentry. The first few days, if not weeks, students were having difficulty socially interacting with each other. And some of them even told me that, like, this is weird, being face to face with people again. And in checking in with them after a couple weeks, you could really see them kind of brighten up. I think obviously one of the benefits of this is social interaction, albeit for one period, but being with your peers and being able to have the opportunity to do that is, I've seen some huge benefits. And Thalia?
Oh, it says Thalia. I don't know why. It's too less. Sorry. She must have been using my Zoom connection. Sorry about that. Okay, so Jill Quaylar is texting me. So I first would like to ask her question if I can, Mr. Sundbeck. She would like to seek clarification. So is the in-person class actually, the class is still online?
So it's a combination. So we can't have all the students in the classroom. So let's just kind of keep it simple. You got 30 kids that are in the class. We're going to have an A group and a B group. So, 15 of the kids will be present. The other 15 that are in that period 3 class are going to be online. So that's where the hybrid piece of this comes in, that our teachers are going to be having a group in front of them, physically in front of them, and then they're going to have a group that's on the computer screen like we all are at this time. And so they're going to be talking and teaching to both groups.
So will the in-class be getting actually a teacher in the classroom instruction, or will that teacher be somewhere else?
No, the teacher will be physically with the students who are physically in the classroom.
Okay. Okay, so that's Jill's questions. It looks like we satisfied her questions. So I want to thank you for taking the time to do this town hall meeting. I think I hear a lot of, I really want to honor like the staff and the counselors and the teachers especially, and how much they've busted their bum. So that's why I'm struggling with my own verbiage with this. And so I just want them to really like hold that in their heart. There's another part of this, which is when this all happened, we talked about focus groups and parents and teachers coming together. And I like have to think that if we would have implemented what we said we would have done at the beginning of this, a somewhat more reasonable plan would come together, because I don't see where this is fair for teachers in the last quarter. I mean, we're all, per Mr. Steinbeck and what he said, and the mental health of our kids, yes. But kids also don't like transitions. And so like at the last 8 weeks of school, we're gonna have them either choosing to like, okay, we should do this and we wanna see our teachers, and torn between that, and then, potentially rushing home. And so I guess one of my questions is there any way to have, one set of students in all day, and then the next day, the next set of full students go in, so you don't have that challenge of the running back and forth piece, even if it's shorter periods of time, depending on what your needs are as a school. So, and having said that, I also want to acknowledge that I can only imagine that's how we kind of got to this crazy plan in the first place, is that we thought, oh, we'll just tweak this one little area, oh, we'll just tweak this one little area. And then all of a sudden, when you have it all in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is a mess, but it's what we have. So, so that's kind of my first part. Is there any way to tweak this to make a little bit more sense? The other question is, are we doing anything ahead of time so that we're not like, oh, well, we waited and we just didn't know, to identify staff, teachers, and even your students that are vaccinated? Because I was actually super surprised how many of our students and my children's friends, they work in food service, they work in childcare, they're getting their vaccines, they volunteer at CHOMP. And I've been super impressed with them and how many students actually have already gotten their first round of vaccines. So in looking towards the future and knowing that that means you don't even have to wear a mask per CDC requirement, are we doing something to track that so we really have a reasonable understanding of what is our risk at the school? If our population is so hugely vaccinated, not to say we still don't put these mitigating measures in place, but it makes our risk factor lower. And then my third piece is really, I hope now we have 8 weeks to figure out, not a wait and see, but put some resources into looking at how to do a graduation at that field. You know, that field was just renovated 4 or 5 years ago, I think, when this senior class was in 8th grade. And so having this opportunity for them to be on this field for their senior year when they weren't even allowed to be a part of the hello and goodbye because of the renovation, I think is really powerful. And it's a huge field, and even 6 feet apart, which you actually only need to do if you don't have a mask on outdoors.
Dahlia, with
Like,
time in mind, can we respond to some of this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sorry, there was no clock timer, and I didn't understand that there would be a limit to the questions.
Well, we have till 8 o'clock. That's all.
Yeah,
I think the first piece that you really kind of hit up on was choice. You know, like we're really trying to facilitate a schedule where we can give every family choice, and they will have quality education, whether you know they choose to stay in distance learning or come back in hybrid. Obviously, we're moving a lot of plates around and trying to make it match with our distance learning, which, as you can imagine, was very difficult. As you know, we did have town hall meetings over the summer and basically set it in place. Changing it would be quite difficult, but I will say one of the big benefits of this is that the families do have choice, and both options are good ones. Lito?
And to that, we did look at a variety of options and brought those forward to the school board a while back, and ultimately settled on this schedule. Again, as I've stated multiple times this evening, to provide as much continuity. We too understand change is always hard, and it's magnified in the year that we have lived. And so this provides that continuity for our students and for our teachers. And we are always looking at what we hope to do in the event that things change at the county level. You know, at this time, the county is not allowing large gatherings, and we, you know, anticipate, you know, that really isn't going to change. However, if things change and all of a sudden just really start just to open up, we are absolutely going to look at alternatives, you know, for our graduation. We want as much normalcy for our students as possible, but there are many factors that we have to look at as we work through this. And I'm just going to use sports as an example. Since we returned after winter break, we have had multiple versions of what we are allowed to do with our students through athletics. Sometimes changing, CIF changing the expectations on the same day. So we adjust and pivot and turn and flips and everything else we need to do to meet the new regulations, and we will continue to do that as things change going forward. And of course, we all hope that they will continue to change for the better. All right.
And Sarah?
Hello, thank you so much for this meeting. I have a question about the filtration system. I know part of it includes keeping windows and doors open, and I think that's fantastic. Obviously, that's going to be great for the majority, and that's really what we're aiming for. For kids who happen to have allergic reactions to pollens and that sort of thing, do you know if the filtration system that's being used in the classrooms also filters out some of that type of thing? We're just trying to make a decision at our house what's going to be best for our student, and that's really all. Thank you guys for everything. We've actually had a pretty good year, all things considered, and that's a credit to you and your staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steinbeck, I believe our Director of Facilities, Matt Kelly, is in the audience. And
Let me work on that.
see if we can,
Yeah,
if you wouldn't mind, if he's available,
absolutely.
to just address the question regarding filtration and allergens.
Hey, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, so the filtration system will, but with the amount of fresh air coming in from the outside, the majority of the air coming in and out of the classroom will be outside air. So the outside air will be pushing out the inside air, and a lot of that air will not be going through the filtration system just because the amount that's coming in. Okay, I hope that helps.
I think it does. Thank you. All right,
Thanks, Matt.
who's next? Mr. Steinbeck.
And Allison.
Hello, I have following up perfect timing. Are the filters that are in the HVAC systems, are they the ones recommended by the CDC, the MERV filters? And then my other question is, could you explain a little bit more about the sanitizing and cleaning procedures that will be done? I know that the elementary schools are using electrostatic spraying and things like that, and so I'm just interested in what the high school will be using.
Yeah, and Director Kelly, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so CDC and ASHRAE have recommended a MERV 13 if our systems can handle it. Basically, what it means is that the fan system, if the fan is not going to blow up or from using MERV 13, then they would recommend it. Our fans will. So we have MERV 8s in there, but doing our initial testing on, and we'll be presenting this on Thursday at the board meeting, is we're able to bring in so much fresh air. We're really bypassing the filtration system and really going straight to just bringing in outside air and pumping in that air that's in the classroom back out. And it's a lot cleaner and more efficient than using the filtration system that we currently have.
And then the last piece, Kelly, is about cleaning and electrostatic guns.
So the high school's got 2 electrostatic guns, so we'll be cleaning in between classes with those, and then our normal routine cleaning in each room every night. So that'll be more cleaning actually than disinfecting. So we'll clean, disinfect rooms, garbage, and all that stuff in the evening times. But just between classes is just a disinfection.
Okay. All right. Who do we have next?
Yes, and Jason, I cannot unmute you. Oh, I can. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Hi, thanks. First, real quick question. It was unsure on the slides. Will students be required to wear masks the entire time that they're indoors or they're inside the classroom?
Students will be required to wear masks while they're on campus, outside, inside, at all times while they're on campus.
Okay, well, that was it. Thank you.
Welcome. All right, who's next?
And Perrine?
Yes, my question is about, are they gonna bring their own computers? The one that were given to the school, and is that what they're gonna use mainly in the classroom?
Yes, so students who have been issued a school computer, the expectation is that they bring it to school and then back home. Their homework every night will be to charge their computer so that they're ready to go. Those students who, let's say, have a desktop at home or using a personal device, we will be able to accommodate them with a Chromebook on campus.
And Luke?
Hello there. I am wondering what type of equipment the teachers will be able to use in order to present in this hybrid model so that they can both be in front of the classroom presenting to all the students and then also simultaneously creating another Zoom type meeting. So what is the camera that they're using? And then what is, do they have a lav microphone, or how do they get their sound if they're going to be standing across the room from their computer camera?
So there, our technology is limited in that our teachers are going to continue to use the device that's been issued to them and the device that they're currently using to teach. So as I am right now, I'm sitting down in front of my computer. I anticipate that our teachers will be doing the same with in front of me. If I were the teacher in the classroom, I'll have my 6 to 12 students, and we'll be having dialogues, conversations. They'll have their computers viewing any slide decks that I may have shared with them, any access to any applications or websites that we're viewing collectively as a class. And the teacher will have on their screen their students who are at home, and that interaction will take place that way. We're not incorporating new technology such as cameras, microphones, things of that nature. We want to make this as simple as possible so that we can just get into the classroom and move forward.
So there's no way to share what they're not going to be able to write on a board then and then stand away from their computer.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Sandeep?
Thank you. Actually, we have a question and a comment on a questions. And number one, I really appreciate that the process of reopening is challenging as the process of going to distance learning. So I know there is a lot of work, planning, logistics going on. One comment that I would like to make is that for a hesitant child that wants to go in person, is that the feedback that sometimes she's getting for the teachers is that the numbers of the students that are going to be in distance learning are very, very low. And so it gives the impression that very few students are going to be in distance learning otherwise. And so I was happy to hear that more students that we thought were going into in-person are going to be in campus. And but sometimes it could be either how the student is interpreting the information from the teacher, or the teacher had the wrong perception per se. So I don't know which one, but it's kind of hard.
And then just one more comment and question. The other comment is that if there's a in-person orientation for the ninth graders, I think we've talked about this before, Shane, the more the school can characterize new students as the new ninth graders plus transfer students, that would be great, because there's some other, non-ninth graders who haven't, don't know the school at all. And then lastly, question, are you able to, if you could say anything about if you're planning any routine testing of teachers or students in the hybrid model? Thanks.
In regards to testing, it is not a requirement that we test at this time. We are offering testing to our staff. Those who choose to do so can be tested every Monday. And one group of students who we are required to test if they wish to participate in football. That's the one group that per CIF guidelines, as long as we are at a rate, in the colored tier of purple, our football players have to test if they want to participate. So that's the only requirement right now that is being dictated to us by the state and the county. All right.
And with regard to new students to the district, and Sandeep, I know we've had some conversations on this, and I appreciate you reminding me. With equity in mind, I will certainly look back at the numbers and see the number of students total that we have new to the district, and certainly work on that.
All right. Who do we have next?
And Demi?
Hi, everyone. Just want to say thanks. And I know this is one big giant Rubik's Cube. I just have a question. I'm a bit slow. If to make the right decision, if my son has a class 3rd and 5th period, what does his hybrid situation look like? He's only on campus for one of those classes each day except for Monday. Is that right?
That would be correct. Yes.
And would it be 3rd period or 5th period, or does it switch around?
It'll depend on the day. So it'll be
Okay.
3rd period on one day and it'll be 5th period on another day.
And then just to kind of better understand the learning experience, basically what's going to happen is the teachers will stick to the curriculum teaching format that they're using right now, but they'll be in person on their computer and the kids will be in person on their computer, pretty much experiencing the same distance learning format, but just sitting in a room together. Is that right? Or am I missing something?
Basically, you're right.
So it's the same type of class, but they're not sitting at home. They're sitting in class. Is that right?
Yeah. So they'll be in class. They won't have their cameras on when they're in person, but they will need their computers to view any slide decks or any access to websites or apps that our teachers are using, as they would on any day a teacher needs to incorporate technology within the classroom. But the one difference, if you will be those kids who are in person. They're not going to have their cameras on. There's no need to. Okay. All right. Who's next, Mr. Steinbeck?
And Naya?
Hello, thank you for taking my question. It's just somewhat of a follow-up to the previous question about the Chromebooks for the students. Will you guys be allowing our students to bring their own Chromebooks from home?
Access to the internet, we would prefer that students do not have their own device on campus, but we'll follow up with that and give you a more precise answer. What Mr. Steinbeck and I are doing now is we're taking some notes and some questions that need a little more detail. We will send out an FAQ by next Monday. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And Megan?
Because I think it's more sanitary. I mean, if you're in a pandemic.
It's Carolyn. I'm using Megan's computer. So 2 quick questions. The first one is, I'm just curious what staffing adjustments have been made to accommodate the scaled up cleaning. My personal experience was we were a little short staffed even before the pandemic. And so I'm just wondering if we've added staff, what accommodations have we made to step up the cleaning? And then my second question is, with a year on campus without any students, I'm just wondering if the students can look forward to any upgrades or, specific capital improvements that have been made on campus. There were plants in the gutters a year and a half ago. I'm wondering if they've had a chance to do anything while the kids have been off campus. Thank you.
We have hired 2 instructional aides on the academic end of things to facilitate our 2 cohorts that have been on campus since January. Lito?
Also, in relationship to cleaning and the process, Mr. Steinbach, our custodial crew, Director Kelly, have sat down and developed a schedule that will allow for all of the cleaning that is necessary. We've spent quite a bit of time analyzing that to ensure that that takes place. So we're very confident that that can continue. As far as any capital improvements, we are moving forward with our bond measure, and we have some items in the pipeline, and we'll be seeing some big improvements in that arena over the coming years. As far as just the general upkeep of the campus, our staff continues to do so and try to make the campus as welcoming as possible for all of us. All right, so we have 13 minutes. We have 4 people who have their hands up still. So let's have these 4 folks as our final questions for this evening. So who would you like to call in next?
That's good. And Julie.
Hey, I'm sorry, I would have asked this earlier, but I thought I had it figured out. Can you please explain the 9th grade orientation? Is that one day for each cohort, or do they stay that entire week before April 6th?
Yeah, the idea would be on March 30th on Tuesday, it would be 1 cohort. And then March 31st on Wednesday, it would be the 2nd cohort. One piece that we are attempting to do pending board approval is give our educators an opportunity to have 2 asynchronous days potentially on April 1st and 2nd, the Thursday and Friday of those days, with the potential return of hybrid on April 6th. So
Okay.
There is a method to the madness there. Yeah.
So the 9th graders would only be on campus one day for their specific orientation. Is that correct?
That's correct. And maybe to go back to an earlier comment, one of our biggest concerns is that our 9th graders new to the school, and Sandeep, I did hear you about new students to the district outside of the 9th grade classes, having difficulty finding their class and that type of thing. And our leadership kids are going to certainly help with that. Where the counselors are, where's A-wing, where's the restrooms, that type of thing, just to ease the transition a little bit.
Okay, I think that's great for the 9th graders. And if there's any board members on, I think the 6th graders, that would be great to do in the middle school too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mary?
Yeah, I have 2 questions actually. My first one is just trying to make sure that I understand. So if we chose hybrid, and so let's say my son is in the classroom, he needs to bring his computer, so the teacher and the students in person are tied to that computer. Is there an allowance for interaction other than on the computer? For example, like let's say he's in a math class and he has a question, right, about something. Is he asking that on his computer, or is there allowed to be like interaction, even though the kids online then wouldn't hear or be part of that interaction? That was my first one. Oh, go ahead.
They would certainly be allowed to interact with the teacher as just any other, class that were in person. And in talking with a lot of the teachers and kind of picking their brains about, hey, how's this going to work and that type of thing. Many of our teachers, if not all of them, allow for breakout sessions and that type of thing so that the kids can interact online. The idea would be that if the students that are in DL or in Group B, let's say, are online at home, they're then in a breakout session while the teacher is then physically with the group in front of them. And that would allow for natural group and peer-to-peer discussion and that type of thing.
Awesome. And my second question is from hearing tonight, is there a possibility then that graduation date will then change again? So graduation was the end of May. And then I read in one of the newsletters that came home that somehow it got changed to June 2nd. So I'm assuming probably for availability of the raceway is what I'm assuming why it would change. So is it possible that graduation is going to change again to another date, or is that our date now, no matter what we do? Like even let's say we're able to have it on campus. Is it now our graduation date, June 2nd?
Yes, we feel that it's important that while there may be given an opportunity for us to have a graduation on campus, we shouldn't keep changing the date because people need to plan accordingly if they're going to have, if grandma's coming in from out of town, and
right.
And so we do want to keep that consistent. But again, if the opportunity affords itself, and I do want to say this as well, that our superintendent, Dr. Porras, he is meeting weekly, most of the time, multiple times within a week, with area superintendents within the county and with our county superintendent. And often it also involves our Monterey County Public Health Director as well. So he's staying well informed as to the current guidelines, and we act accordingly when that information is updated.
Okay, thank you. So we're pretty safe to change airfare to for June 2nd now instead of the end of May, and we're pretty good with that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Okay, and two more comments here. Robin?
Hi, thank you. I had 4 things, but I think one of them was answered. Thank you, Mary, for your question. Secondly, the computers, I think I heard 2 different things, but correct me if I'm wrong and just advise me. Kids can bring their own laptops. Not everybody has a Chromebook from the school. So their own laptops they can bring to the school and get on to the internet or intranet, sorry, there's my dog, at the school.
So we're going to get back to you on that, Robin. We'll have some information out to families by next Monday.
Okay, thank you. Secondly, then graduation date. I know this has gone round and round, and we are set on June 2nd, which is a Wednesday. So if people are traveling in, it makes sense that they would be able to travel in on a weekend. Anyway, just putting that again out there, food for thought. If we are able to, based on current CDC guidelines and so many high schools having their graduation at their high schools, and we have so much space, I just think that this should be looked at again. That's all I have to say about that. And then the last thing I will say is the first time I commented, I've received a number of texts based on what I said regarding bringing the freshmen onto campus early, but not bringing the seniors onto campus early, and or you have a freshman day, you may have a new students day, but not a seniors day. And many people have asked me to revisit this because nobody responded to that. And so I would just, again, like that to be addressed, whether it's tonight or at another time. But if we're going to do these special days for different grades and or new students, again, these seniors have not been on campus. They were not on campus at the end of last year. This is the end of their career at PGHS. Send them off with a positive view of PGHS, taking care of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. You know, I'll try to answer that to the best of my ability, and I hear you. And we identified a need, and the need was basically to create a comfortable space for students that really have not been on our campus, and we're filling that need by creating those 2 days of a freshman orientation. And our last comment of the evening is Jean.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for holding this town hall. It clarified a lot of questions for me, but I want to change the direction just a tiny bit. A lot of people have been talking about the students coming on campus in person. My family may choose to do the opposite at this point. And so I want to ensure that the students online are having a quality education experience as well with their classmates. And I heard it stated earlier, so I'm asking for clarity. The students that are in person in class would they be logged into the Zoom meeting, or will they not? And the comment that their cameras would not be on, and the students at home would have their cameras on, feels to me like the students at home would be missing out on a part of their educational experience. And I really would like to just throw it out there that it be considered that the students that are in campus in person, if they're logged into the meet with the rest of the students, that they have their cameras on as well. I think it's important that the students that are choosing to stay home aren't missing out on that sort of connection with the students that are in person in class, because that's important for the students as well. But if you could clarify that piece, because I'm assuming, so in the class, the teachers got their mask on, instructing online, sitting at their desk, and that all the students are sitting at their desks also logged in to the meeting, or just to whatever technology they're looking at. If you could clarify that, thank you.
Sure. So you are correct in that the teachers at their desk, they'll be masked along with everybody else who's present on campus. And the group of students who are at home are actually two groups of students. They are the families who've chosen to continue with distance learning, and they are members of the other group. So if A group is here in front of me, the B group students are online in conjunction with those students who have chosen distance learning. So two groups of students online. The students in person will not be a part of the Google Meets or the Zoom, but they do need their computer to access any of the digital formats that the teacher is presenting to everyone, whether in distance learning, part of the B group, or those in person. And so our distance learning kids will have a very similar experience to what they're experiencing now. There's just going to be, maybe depending on the class for that day and the breakouts of the A and B groups, there could be anywhere from 6 to 10 less kids digitally in front of them, but a good number of those kids that they have come accustomed to seeing in these little boxes are going to be there for them to interact with. Teachers who are incorporating breakout groups, those students who are online will still continue to have those opportunities. The kids who are present, they'll just have that opportunity to do so with those around them. So again, continuity. We're trying to create those opportunities and not disrupt our learning for any of our students. Well, look at that. 8 o'clock on the dot. We must run a school, start on time, end on time. I greatly appreciate all of you being here this evening. We will be sending out some additional information based on the questions that were brought forward this evening. Our goal is to have that out to you this coming Monday. Just a reminder, the questionnaire is closing at 5 p.m. On the 18th. If you've already submitted a response and you wish to change that response, please email Mr. Steinbach. And for $35.99, he'll change your answer. All right. Unless you have a coupon, then it's only $1. All right, folks. Great seeing you all. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.